action here at the extended European Ultimate Championship Finals in Bruges, Belgium. I am Hannah Pendlebury, delighted to be joined on this live stream by the one and only Ali Thomas. We have YAKA taking the field in front of us on offense, getting us underway against CUSB of Italy. They've just seen their male counterparts not succeed against the likes of Clapham, but an early error from YAKA is going to give the disc to Shout Steeline. Chesky, far side, finds Seibert. Seibert's going to open up the arm. It is a massive arcing one, just about kept in. And is that a score just over the line?
Looks a bit too close to call from here, but it looks like the players will discuss it on the field. We've got a YAKA player calling the goal.
Yeah, Chassigno puts the signal and hits a break straight out of the blocks for the Italians.
So pretty decisive opening statement from CUSB there, and you can see they're really fired up.
Oh, as they well should be. The defending champions here through the tournament had a slightly trickier path into this women's final. How have they gone so far through the tournament, these two teams?
So YAKA have been looking pretty dominant. They've capped everybody at 15, haven't had any games where they have not scored 15 goals. Their closest game, I believe, was 15-9 earlier in the tournament. CUSB struggled a little bit more. They've had matchups in worse conditions and on worse fields, so that potentially leading to slightly tighter scorelines, the weather and the conditions a bit of a leveler. They had to play Valkyria twice, were able to prevail twice. I think the challenging of their games. So YAKA probably the favourites coming in, but CUSB showing that they're definitely not going to go quietly.
So YAKA's O-line here now needing a hold if they're going to prevent the Italians from taking this away. As I say, defending their European title in the black shirts, as we see Mondiaux taking down under traffic, far side being marked. Look back, Anna Chesky from a farball, can't quite see the number, and Paul Labus opens up the arm. The young player from the Netherlands finds another of the international collective for the Yakitos, Ines Bringel.
That is the kind of decisive play that YAKA have been throwing all tournament. They have the deep cutters, they have the handlers. There are certain handlers who really, really love to look long. This is the number 18, Mondiaux, especially has a right arm on her. So CUSB are going to have to figure out a strategy to lock that down early on. Otherwise, YAKA are going to be putting point after point on the board.
Yes, indeed, the Eurostar, the number 18 captain for this YAKA side, used to be one of the only hand cannons for this YAKA squad. And as we said briefly, they've had a couple of friends come along, YAKA being a very fun club to play with, attracting talent from both sides of the Atlantic. But those players perhaps helping them in previous years to finally break into the top set here in the women's division. Will be bring you a recap, though, of the brief history of these two teams as we watch Frangipani, centre of the field, coming out for the first time on offence, our CUSB. Greta Meliger there, they'll isolate her a lot in space. If she's having a good day, the Italians are going to be storming perhaps ahead in the early stages here. Scazzieri, Irene looks around, has to put a chuck in and hope. Meliger, though, far side, the tall Italian reels it in, and that is the second point for CUSB, 2-1.
So I would say the first 90% of that looked very comfortable, working it under very nicely, getting really lovely separation from their defenders. That last throw, slightly dicier, but if it gets in the goal, it gets in the goal. So as Hani mentioned, YAKA, this is the furthest they have ever made it in a European Ultimate Championship. They have 2 bronze medals to their name, but they have never made it to a final.
And what happened the last time these two met up? Because that was back in 2019.
So in 2019, they were in the bronze medal match. CUSB lost on Universe.
Well, they won on Universe in 2019. So, sorry, yeah, we're currently reading through our notes that I've handwritten and Ali's working with. So, last time these two teams met up on the fields in Caorle, Venice, the home advantage perhaps going to the Italians. So, YAKA lost in the semi-final 13-12 on sudden death, the last European Championship finals before the pandemic, 13-12. So the YAKA players wanting to go on the charge, Paula Bass on the end of a huck rather than the beginning. Unusual to see that happen. And a pick downfield is going to give us a brief stoppage.
Apologies for misreading your notes there, honey.
That's okay. That's why...
why there's two of us.
It's okay. We're well into the depth of this tournament as commentators. It's been a bit of a grind here out on the fields, but we are delighted to be doing so. Would we be rather anywhere else? Absolutely not, as we see a CUSB overthrow on the far sideline.
It's an uncharacteristic error from CUSB. They have been fairly on target with most of their deep throws. Inclement conditions accepted, and it is very still here in Bruges, and the rain has finally stopped.
So the CUSB error giving the YAKA offensive line the disc back. Bringel, the Portuguese contingent for this YAKA side. Happy belated birthday to her sister, Felipe. Oh, and my goodness, that is a beautiful backhand. The target in the end zone is found, the number 96, Olga Chininia.
She's been such a reliable deep cutter for YAKA so far this tournament. And as I said earlier, YAKA really, really love their deep game. They had some struggles against teams who had some zones that really shut it down very effectively. So I would very much like to see CUSB bringing out something to try and clamp down on those deep throws.
Beautiful sailing backhand the first time round, trying to hit Paula Bass. Perhaps getting available in the deep space because, as we say, Paula, not the biggest person to throw hucks to, but certainly enjoys opening up the arm herself.
And just lovely, catches it perfectly in stride. It's a perfect height and just the right angle that the defender has nary a chance.
Well, Rasta there, as she's known, such a wonderful player and a wonderful person. I think probably would have won the Miss Congeniality Award for Eurostars 2019.
And that would not have been an easy award to win. There were lots of very lovely people on that team.
Yeah, and a successful campaign also. Although Czeszki, the number 31, I believe it was actually playing for the team that took the only defeat against that 2019 Eurostars tour in Raleigh. Phoenix. They had to have a Eurostar to beat the Eurostars. And a huge ripper from the captain, Francesca Sorrenti. Sorry, not the captain. That's Pancotti, number 11, that's the captain for this CUSB side, alongside Laura Farolfi, who is not on the field. She broke her foot a couple of weeks ago in training.
You might be able to see her on a wide shot. She is on crutches in the background, so still very much here, but not contributing on the field.
There was a good joke going around. We're staying in the same hostel as the Italians. They look pretty confident and happy at breakfast, just bubbling around, glad to be here again in the final. But Farolfi was saying she should be given a BB gun so she can shoot her players when they're not doing exactly as she says.
Not sure what the ethical standards would have to say about that, about coaching in France, but who knows?
Well, either way, YAKA now looking for their next point. There's a pick upfield. As we say, ciao, or should we say bonjour, bonsoir, bon mat? What is it? Is there a good afternoon? I forget in French. L'après-midi? Yeah, but it's not really a good afternoon thing. It's not really a saying. Anyway, bonjour to the Yakitos and the Yak Americans. Let us know if you're on board for this women's final stream. You can get in touch with us via the comments. Make sure you hit that subscribe, like, and bell notifications. Nice pressure on the defensive handler set. And a big huck again. It's going to be a game of throws, perhaps, this match. And just about sails out of bounds.
Yeah, just a bit too much IO on that, made it tail far too much to the right. It looked good when it came out, but not quite good enough.
De Laval, the intended target, but unable to capitalize. But a slow start for the Italians on this second asking. Oh, it is a beautiful flick, but Fenig's in the air and she's going to snatch that out of the sky as she tends to do. I love the scuba fake there, Robin. Fan of this. And she's become such a key part. This is her 4th year with the YAKA team. And just enough bubble, but that's a nasty come down, and you can see the look on the face. That's so sad to see. It is much better, Ali, playing on these AstroTurf fields than it is on the slippery mess of the rest of the site in Bruges. We've had a lot of the games for the lower down divisions cancelled outright when we saw the storm rolling in yesterday, but you do get curious injuries on rubber chrome occasionally, and that unfortunately looks like it's one of them.
I think we may well need the paramedics to come over. I think it's the knee that I saw her holding.
Well, the Italians did bring their own physio with them. I saw them getting some pre-game massages, as we'll have a look at that beautiful arcing flick that Fenig just took down. Such a dangerous, steep threat.
And some applause for the CUSB player as she manages to get herself off the pitch.
By virtue of the orange necky, I think that might be a Scherzieri coming off, which is devastating. The two Scherzieri sisters so pivotal for this shout side, and we've seen them be really unfortunate with injuries. We've already talked about Farolfi, but I think they were intending on bringing 28 players, but they've only brought 21 over the past couple of weeks. They've just been so unfortunate. So is it just going to be that thing that takes a bit of the chunk out of the mental composure for CUSB? I know YAKA have brought their own psychology coach.
Wow.
Wow, indeed.
Is that a coach who also happens to know something about psychology, or is that an individual?
No, they have an individual who is just helping them figure out their mental game.
That's some real sports stuff.
Oh, absolutely. There is it's becoming a growing sort of field of study for ultimate players, as we see Meliga going to the ground, but not able to come up with the goods for the score. But it'd be nice to see this point finish so we can shake off the injury we saw but a few moments ago.
Yes, and for the first few passes, after that stoppage, CUSB still looking very strong, but it certainly can take a toll when you see one of your teammates injured and you have that concern niggling in the back of your mind.
We can confirm it is indeed Irene Scherzieri that's going to be looked at on the side, and hopefully it's just a bit of a jar, one of those nervy, painy things, but nothing too long term. Maybe see her back on the field later. But they do have a very deep squad, as we see Frangipane take it out of the sky and immediately pop it into the zone, and that is a hold for the Italians.
So a bit of a roller coaster of emotion, that point, but CUSB able to clinch the goal after capitalising on a short field turn by YAKA. So just a little bit of background on these teams as the next point winds up. YAKA have faced CUSB twice in the years from 2017 to 2019. As we mentioned in 2019, they lost in the semi. In 2018, YAKA were not actually here. They were representing at the World Ultimate Club Championships that year, so they decided to focus on that one tournament for the summer. In 2017, they beat CUSB for the bronze medal. That is one of 2 bronze medals that this French side has. CUSB, working backwards, obviously we know they are the current champions, beating Cosmic Girls in the final. In 2018, the year that YAKA was not here, they took their first championship, beating Iceni. and in 2017 they were 4th, as we mentioned, losing to YAKA. So both teams have a bit of a history of matching up against each other. Obviously rosters have changed a bit in the intervening years, but they are not strangers to each other's style of play. As a huge huck goes up.
Paula Bus underneath it, playing through a stress fracture in her foot. But it doesn't look like there's any difference being made by that.
How can players with literal broken bones be so dominant on the field? It's not fair.
It's just the Paula Bus way. So YAKA punch in another score. They are trailing a break against this CUSB Shout team that had the early advantage, but nice to see both a clean hold, I think that is.
Yes, and a quick one too.
Blingel, as we say, the Euro star from 2019 and I think 2018, pulling double duty. Certainly more than one cap. Can't remember which year, but maybe you can tell us in the comments. Finding Bas, who wasn't there on the 2019 squad, but was in 18. To say, these are some of the greatest female athletes in the whole of the European continent.
And dare say the world.
Oh, absolutely. Do you see the look there on Paula Bus's face?
She's happy with that one.
I'm pretty happy as well. Hopefully we get this one going the full 15, or at least the full 90 minutes that will be playtime here on the fields in Bruges. Oh, nice big bid there, making sure we're keeping the disc alive. It looks like Bonfante on the far side. Oh, nice one around, but that's going to be a miscue. Pancotti tries to chase it down, but it's not to be.
CUSB in their semi had quite a few of those breaks, both IO and round, that sailed over the head of the intended receiver. Some were scooped up, some were not.
So a chance here for YAKA to take a break back. Fennig far sideline's going to open up a huge hoof of a backhand, but picked off by the defense. That's Frangipani underneath it.
I mean, some of these hucks, you think they're going to come out perfect, and then just at the last second, a player is able to come up and just snaffle them away. But Fennig more than capable of putting pinpoint hucks. Do you think a little bit of nerves maybe at this point still?
I think, to be honest, it's more the fact that we know what Robin wants to do, and the CUSB lines do have a lot of height. As we see Greta Melliger there, one of the favoured targets again. Look at the height difference between her and her matchup. So yeah, it's a tall squad, so anything that sits and floats and hangs and is going to be a sky ball, the Italians are probably going to come out on top.
Northern Italians do not share that same reputation as a lot of Southern Italians do of being short. Generally, the further north you go in Italy, the taller the average height is. So YAKA starting to move the disc up the field now. Oh, huge layout! Oh, easy score. Very nice, very nice.
Fennig does what Fennig does best. And that's a nice high backhand. Sinks it in, and eventually they do get there. YAKA with the break back. We are on serve after that early error gave CUSB an advantage. So that means, of course, if these two Titan clubs in the women's division just trade out, it will go to YAKA by virtue of having won the toss.
I can't imagine that will happen, but anything is possible. Absolutely anything is possible.
Oh no, I could 100% imagine that happening. We were going to have breaks. We're going to have some spice. We get another look at that Frangipane block. Nice. Kiki getting a great read on that.
Looks like she could have caught that.
And as we all know, you've got to catch your Ds. Oh, just look at that. One of the things that I find so impressive about Fennig, obviously she has an incredible ability to read the disc, to be just such a good shepherd at the back of a zone, but it's more the instinctive way with which she throws. It's almost like she knows what's going to happen on the pitch before it happens, and therefore she doesn't have to have any hesitation when she's throwing the next pass. But no hesitation there between the backhandless set, as we see Seibert putting it up. The Austrian inside shot, but that's going to be a little bit too much mustard on. And Pancotti with the miscue.
Looks like she tried to eagle catch that and it just slipped down and straight onto the floor.
So YAKA, can they generate a little bit of a run here? Mondiaux with the disc. Bas having to scoop low, but that's thrown straight into the turf. What happened, Rasta? Seibert into Frangipane. Oh, a low one. Is that a Chesky grab on the far side? Yes, it is. Still playing in her waterproof trousers, even though the sun is now making its first appearance here in Bruges. It's because it's the women's final, Ali.
Gotta give the women's final some love. Even the weather knows that.
The sun's like, mixed. Oh, yeah, rain, you can have that. Open. Cloud, bit more rain, sure. Women's final. Wall-to-wall sunshine, right?
Maybe a slight exaggeration there.
Oh, we wish. It's been a soggy, soggy tournament. But it's great to be back. We wouldn't have it any other way. As you can see on the far sideline, the body language of the spectators is that, yeah, the sun might have poked its head through, but it's still very cold. Looking pretty hot, though, is Ines Bringel as she puts a release valve out into space for Elise Becquet. Le Bon in the middle, Nanu. Back to Bringel. When she first was playing with this YAKA side, Bringel, in fact, I think she was playing, but oh my goodness, as my brain tries to remember stuff, Chesky goes big and then gets a big piece of Eline Mondiaux.
I think calls the foul on herself.
Absolutely, just one of those things of getting tangled in the center of the field. But I think Ines Bringel actually in the 2019 campaign, she was playing for Cosmic Girls, so nice to see her coming across and playing for YAKA.
Cheeky switch.
Seibert pops across. Frangipane. Pancozzi with the lethal inside. This time, no errors. Meliger opens up the arm around Seibert. Oh my goodness! That's Bus trying to get the block. Puts enough pressure. I think that's Diaz.
And we've seen it before in this game now, where CUSB try and take on a bladey break throw, and it's just not on target. So YAKA have another chance after several turns in this point. 5 in total.
And Mondiaux will get us underway again. Becke, whose brother we had on our earlier stream game for the YAKA side, giving us all the facts. If you want to have an in-depth knowledge of the YAKA side, do watch that stream game back. It is available for you free, forever, on YouTube. Becke just about getting it over the top, sneaking it over Pancotti. Some slightly risky biscuits. Oh, and you see Bringel track that one down. Good mental focus and acuity, but of course, this YAKA side is very deep, very large roster. These players are pretty fresh for this 4-day tournament, and there's an inside to Bringel, and it's a goal for YAKA, and another break.
That was an excellent cut from Bringel, and really helped out that YAKA side because everything looked very static in the end zone. And the players all set up in formation very nicely, but it looked like no one was really sure where the cut was going to come from. But as we saw, Bringel is the one who was looking to get the disc up the line, and she does so admirably.
Our producer Milan is currently stood in the sunshine. In fact, Lorcan Murray's just fallen to his knees. He's so excited to see a bit of nicer weather after the miserable conditions we've been experiencing out here. But what a final this is turning out to be. We saw CUSB shout. See the error from Meliger there. Coming up against the Valkyria side, the very talented but rather short-rostered Valkyria side on this field but a few days ago, and both teams really struggled. It was turnover city in that stream game, so delighted to have such nice scenes. And look at these replays, Ali.
Yeah, credit to our camera crew who've been working incredibly hard all weekend to bring you these beautiful shots so we can watch them again in slow motion. You can see Mondiaux there going to ground, somehow managing to pop up without any friction burns on her legs, and then that lovely cut from Bringel. And you can see her here tracking that disc. Her head is moving like it's on a swivel, just making sure that it's in her eye line still.
Well, I have to say, Ines Bringel is all business. Absolutely. She has a great time out in the field, though you wouldn't necessarily see it from her facial expressions. She makes posterizing grabs. She is dominant on the field. But we'll talk a bunch about these two teams, both, as you say, established amongst the women's club scene. Of course, you've got a difference here. You've got YAKA, which is more of an established unit. It's a club that's just catering for women. Obviously, part of the Noisy-le-Sec community, which has its male counterparts of Is No Good, but obviously the big brand of CUSB CUSB from La Bologna, producing so many talented athletes. They have representation at the championship finals in all 3 divisions.
YAKA coming out with a zone.
Well, you've got to try something to confuse this very handy CUSB offense. Let's get Zerini. High grab. Nice work around the back here as we see him melt to match. Seems to have completely stifled, but there goes Cheshki on the far sideline. Normally playing on the D line for CUSB, but this is her paying some double duty, and there is the goal eventually. However, a travel is going to be called by Fenig. He's marching up Gaia Pancotti.
Some of the CUSB players on the sideline having to decelerate quickly and support their run onto the field to celebrate.
Loving the power plat look that Fenig has. Nice round to Seibert, who's, I believe this is her first appearance on CUSB, but we'll have to do some fact checking. The Austrian. Sean Colfer is nodding his head, covering this women's division for Ulti World, working super hard and jumping into our booth on the odd occasion.
Got a great team here.
Absolutely. So we see Chesky and Becquet having a little chat. Oh, sorry, De Laval. So back in action, Chesky pops it up to Pancotti. She nearly didn't get that. Just, here's a disc for you in the face. And there's a disc for you in the end zone. It's a goal for Shout.
Very similar to YAKA's last goal down that end zone. Quite a static stack, standing central, and then it's that dump cut, getting free up the line, just a cheeky little pass in. It's, when it works so well. And you can see there a lot of separation from Gaia Pancotti, that Gaia Pancotti gets from her defender, able to make that clap catch very easily.
And not just any defender, Ali, that is the one and only Robin Fenig.
Indeed it is. Not an easy woman to get free from, up the line or anywhere.
Although, to be honest, I feel like that's probably fair to say about all of the players on the field.
Oh, yes.
As much as I'm fangirling over Robin, it is lovely to commentate on her games, and nice to follow all of, well, not all of these athletes. I don't follow every single one of them on Instagram, but Robin does. So hello to Lily and Paul at home. I'm sure they'll be watching. Lily, the new pup. Have you been tempted by a lockdown pup?
Well, we already have a dog, so getting another one might have been slightly overkill.
Oh, woof woof indeed. We've seen some excellent doggo action on the far sideline, although we seem to be missing them. They've probably been taken out for some walkies, but some good collies earlier on, some good dogs indeed. Not getting on the pitch, thankfully, and chasing any frisbees, because that, of course, can be a risk sometimes, as anyone who's practiced in a public field will know. See some hot pressure defense from CUSB here.
CUSB look like they're running a little bit of a poachy look.
Paula Bass playing on that stress fracture. Paul pops it through a sneaky, slicey break. Mondiaux with her own variant. Nice and low. Gina pops it back. Has options available, but chooses the high dish, and that is gorgeous.
That is such an unusual is not strong enough a word, but that is not a throw you necessarily expect coming out at that angle going to that area. But that is exactly the kind of throw that Mondio can perform in a high pressure situation near to the end zone. And YAKA look like they may be starting to pull away slowly but surely.
Absolutely unconventional, I think is the word for that release point and that angle. Let's have another look.
She's looking, fakes the open side, and she just flings that. It's not even necessarily that high of a release point, but she does it so fast, almost whips it round and able to be collected.
There's so much power in the wrist snap of Mondio, like especially because, right, she released it, and I'm going to do this to you, Ali.
All right,
she released it like here. So right in front of the face of the defender. Oh, no. But like, if she'd moved in just 1 inch, that would have been a face full of disc.
Or a face full of elbow, possibly. It looked like her arm was quite straight, which is, you know, both are bad options.
This, of course, being why, I don't know actually if it's the WFDF rule set, but the UK Federation keeps having to send out emails. Please do not play your games in wristwear, such as Fitbits and watches, that are not covered by nice, soft, big sweatbands. Because I've seen someone take a big, full backhand hug to the face with a wristwatch. It was not great. But that was just good enough. The release valve, escape hatch, high throw, as we see the Italians get forced into a throwaway frangipane, the intended target, and immediately the response, but not quite there. A little bit of a winding.
An injury call is signalled.
All right, that looks to be Knudsen. Vika there, coming across from the Danish side, although a connection to Fennig. She actually played in Wisconsin for the Belladonna side coming out of the University in Madison.
Shout out to any American fans who are watching presumably quite early in the morning, or if indeed you are watching this back to catch up on the action.
Oh, and thank you, Mats, in the comments. Seibert has 3 nationalities, but none of them are Austrian. There we go. Getting myself confused, but no confusion here from the CUSB side as they charge down the field. Sorrenti looking around frantically for options, eventually finds Seibert.
There'll be a pick called in the stack. You can see Davide Marie walking across our commentary booth here.
Davide Mori. Ciao, Vela. Recently married.
Congratulations if you're watching this back, Davide. Auguri, tanti auguri.
And and a shout out to some Italians that might know Ali, the lovely Ali.
Yes, anybody from the AUT in Torino. I know they're all at Paga now, doing not too badly. So, ciao ragazzi, see you soon.
Oh, and that is a nice bid just to make sure on the far side of the field, the number 20, Cecilia Scalerini.
So not the cleanest hold for Shout, but a hold is a hold.
I think not the cleanest is probably a bit of an understatement, but it's good to see this game being nice and close.
We would expect nothing less from teams of this caliber vying for the title of the best women's team in Europe. CUSB keep confusing me. They look like they're standing in a huddle, like they've just called a timeout, as opposed to YAKA, who are all kneeling down helpfully.
Well, talking about this women's division more generally, Ali, these two are the largest rosters, I'm pretty sure, by a fairly significant margin. CUSB has a couple more hands at the tiller than the YAKA side does. But hats off to Valkyria, one of the smallest rosters here, who went really deep into the bracket after being quite, well, coming in quite a lowly seed. The Swedes coming out of nowhere with some help from their Lithuanian friends.
Watching them was super fun when the conditions were good. When the conditions were good, they had an incredible indoorsy style, lots of hammers and blades and spice. But having to play in the conditions I saw them play in, it was just dreadful for all involved, I think.
Well, they did seem to be playing a lot better when they just said, well, you know, well, goodness gracious me, we're a couple of points down. We might as well play indoors anyway. And they looked pretty good, and that actually gave them some confidence. But we'll have to check them out at a later time, because right now we're seeing another CUSB zone. These two teams haven't had the pleasure of facing up against each other, but we did see CUSB zone actually against that Valkyria side. One has to think that the throwing chops on YAKA are probably going to be pretty good. I say, already seen some controversial, unconventional discs out of the hand of Mondiaux, as we see on the far side, Audrichon.
YAKA had a lot of practice playing against Love, the women's team from Belgium, through a zone for pretty much their whole quarterfinal. And YAKA struggled with it at first, so they managed to get those reps in.
And talking of close games for YAKA, they've pretty much rolled the pack here that they've played. And with throws like that, rinsing through the zone, you can easily see why. Pop back into the hands. Every third pass, of course, Rasta. Lee Mondiaux, Becquet far side. And I think that might be a Frisbee's hat she's donning there.
A little bit of support for the local team.
Oh, and the tournament organisers here, massive hats off to the Frisbee's crew. The Barbies, the Frisbees, running around, making this happen, adjusting the schedule due to these horrendous conditions early in the tournament. That's a high stall and a stall out for CUSB as we chat around. But Rietschoten's going to have a few things to say about it.
So looks like another perspective being offered by YAKA, but since the throw is a turnover anyway, it should stand, unless a foul is being called. Rietschoten was, she's sort of putting her hands together. Sometimes the foul signals are not entirely uniform across teams, across players. It is a contested foul, so it should be coming in. Maximum stalling 6. Well, stalling 7. Oh no, 8.
Starting stalling 8, so you start with the 8.
But that would have been for a contested stall out, not a contested foul.
True. Inappropriate hand signals. Oh.
Bass looks like she has an opinion. Just from her body language, it looks like she has an opinion.
This is my favourite, when you get the action replay. But it's going to be retracted. Pancotti goes, okay, fair enough. Let's just get on with the playing. And Bass with the disc near sideline. Scagliarini on the mark, and that's going to be a throw into traffic. Lawley. Oh, and that is a ripper, but I think that might fade just too far out of bounds. Can she make a play on it? No, she cannot. A error from Chesky, getting a little bit hot-headed after all those stoppages, perhaps.
Looks like CUSB are immediately going to set up their zone, so a little bit of huck and D, perhaps, happening in this women's final. They have just got a turn from YAKA and put a lot of pressure on them, so clearly they have faith that their zone can continue to get these turns.
And some love in the comments from Daniela Rodriguez-Nassar, an ex-YAKA player, well, probably still considered part of the YAKA unit. If she wanted to come back, I'm sure they'd have her, but hello to you, Daniela. We do miss seeing you on the field. The connection between yourself and Mondiaux was so iconic, but now making new friends, making new connections as Paula Bass is found on the sideline. And that is such a casual throw, tipped away easily by the defense.
Yeah, I'm not even really sure. It looked like the angle was just a little bit wrong, or maybe she didn't see the CUSB player, but yeah, uncharacteristic from Bass.
Well, I think that is a little bit on Bass brand. She's feisty, but weirdly casual on occasion as Paula Bass. Like, she gets into the angry cave sometimes, but like, do you know what I mean? That she's got that kind of like, yeah, I'm just going to slip in here, unnoticed, casual, just wang it that way, grab it this way. She has massive hops for a player of her stature, it has to be said. Although at the moment, it's got to be painful as it gets coming down on that stress-fractured foot.
I imagine she is doped up to the eyeballs on ibuprofen.
Choked up to the eyeballs. Indeed, maybe she's even co-medicating. That's when you know it's bad. It's when you've got a little bit of, maybe a little bit of codeine in your system as well as an anti-inflammatory for the real the real painful ones. But of course, we don't condone playing through injuries.
No, we don't. No,
However, when it's a gold medal on the line and you know you're about to start your off-season for outdoors, sometimes it's tempting.
So we had a CUSB timeout on their end zone line here. I think, just anecdotally, this is the place where I've seen most teams turn over immediately outside of a timeout. You take the timeout, you have the whole pitch looking at you, and then there's a turn and a quick score. So I hope that's not what we're going to see for CUSB, because of course we want to see the game very tight and very exciting. But it has happened. I've seen it happen. That's all I'm saying.
So Ali Thomas with the call for a turnout. And I've got my socks on today. I've got my commentary socks that I bought in Heidelberg. And some of the Italians were playing in that tournament. They're so young. I think that's probably one of the actually understated differences, between these two teams. YAKA, I probably would say a little bit more mature, more seasoned as a playing outfit. So maybe that will assist them in terms of the latter stages of this game. Then again, last time these two teams met when it was on home soil in Caole in that semi-final, it was the Italians, the youngsters, who came out in front, as we see Ceschi putting a beautiful inside. Look at that, and Diaz rips it, but that is gonna be bad. Straight into the floor, Ali.
I don't think we can quite count that as a turnout.
No, they did generate some very nice offense, and then just, you know, those moments. I don't know. You're a handler, right?
That's such a good question, honey.
We're not sure what we are, how we identify. I identify as a handler. That moment when you get excited and you're like, yep, I got that, and then you're just like, your hand just says no. I think that was probably one of the moments for Diaz there.
Especially since the ground is still very wet. We have seen some players laying out and water splashing around them as they land. So if there's a turnover, you know, you're picking up a static disc, it can be just that little bit damp, that little bit harder to get a grip on to throw long.
Although at least today the jerseys are dry enough that if you try and wipe the disc, it's going to be effective. At the latter stages of yesterday, when we saw Salaspil's best Putti to get themselves into the mixed final, I swear it was actually they were picking up the edge of their shirt and making the disc even more wet.
It's probably just habit at that point.
Oh, big pressure there on the hander set. This is great smother cover containment defense from CUSB. Mondio looking around us. Everybody pretty static. Be nice to see them spread this one wide and far. Just moving their arms out the way. Tireless marking. Oh, and a cheeky one over the top to Nanu. Bas now. However, the pack a little bit behind, not able to continue all the way. Just the half a field. Oh, saucy inside break catches Aline sleeping. And Lawley on the far side zips it, and Pancotti is going to put another blade and going to the knees, but that is suspiciously open in the end zone.
Yeah, you really can't afford to be making miscommunications at this level, that near the end zone. And that CUSB zone was really, really, as you said, smothering. And just from looking at the YAKA offense, it looked like they were doing a great job of stretching it deep, but they were also quite smushed in the middle of the pitch, so not stretching it very wide. So we'll just see on the replay this beautiful flow from Shout. Getting it off onto a tight space up the line, not an easy throw to execute, and then just launching deep, going to her knees to collect it safely.
It's an interesting one for the defense here, Ali, because, as you say, they squeezed it down that far side. Perhaps the defenders thought that wasn't going to come off and the Italians weren't going to execute. Even though it was a hard ask on that final pass, if I was on the sideline, if I was a YAKA player, I would be screaming at my teammates, what on earth are you doing letting them softly sagging? into that end zone when you were so close, because it's so easy to throw that single pass. Obviously, not the best execution. It was a very, very bladey flick, but when you're within that distance, you have to really have your head switched on, especially with so many players ready to come and give you respite if you leave everything out here on the field.
So we'll see the shout zone again. Definitely don't fault that decision, considering how effective it was last time.
Absolutely. And that break for the Italians have put us back on serve. YAKA, of course, started on offense and immediately were broken. Fenig looks around, takes the easy shot.
Bit of a discussion between Fenig and Pancotti. Sorry, that's not Pancotti.
Indeed, this is not. I think that is the number. Oh, hold on. Looks like an 8 from my bet. Oh, 51. Of course, yes. That's a Rabagli. Or Rabagli.
Rabaglia.
That's the budget. Ali, of course, having moved to Italy recently, is much better at the Italian pronunciations than I, so I shall defer to her better knowledge.
Well, I'm sure I'm getting it slightly more right, but still probably not entirely right. It's a tricky one to wrap your tongue around sometimes.
So the CUSB zone continues to stifle this YAKA offense. Oh, a high, risky biscuit over the top. That's exactly what they wanted to bait. And off to the races go CUSB. Czeski, Pancotti, back to Czeski. This is so important. If they can get this break, they're going to put themselves out in front once more. Loli. Oh, and it's going to be asked of Czeski once again, but not going to happen this time.
It's these breaks. It's these big, bladey breaks. They are just not working out.
Well, Defensive Player of the Year back in 2019, Anna Czeski, not able to come up with the goods on offense. I wonder if we'll see her at some point take off her waterproof trousers.
Maybe if it comes to Unifest point.
Business time, although they will keep her thighs safe from a horrible turf burn when she gets her lovely layouts. So we see again the hand set of YAKA, unable to really gain much yards. Happy to take the little conservative dink passes, but of course, as any statistician knows, the more passes you throw, it changes the dynamic so much of the nature. Because also, Ali, just as a side point, one of the things I like about this CUSB zone and the kind of, you know, almost passive way it's allowing those slightly negative and horizontal passes is that it's just trying to keep the YAKA O-line out on the field for as long as humanly possible. If you can make those offensive points longer, you're going to tire out your opposition, and that can be the difference between these two very well-matched teams in the end.
That is very true, and especially when the game is going to go all the way to these 90 minutes, as the current scoreline would indicate, and just from what we've seen would indicate, that little bit of extra juice in the legs makes a lot of difference.
I like this switch now from YAKA to actually put more players in the deeper part of the field. When they have the 4 clustered around the disc, it's not really giving them many options. It's allowing the deeps in the zone. You've got Czeski, you've got Seibert on the far side. Just trying to get my eyes on the number. Can't quite see it. Might be a Scazzieri over there, although she's normally on their O-line, so probably not. But they're almost able to just person match. And that's one of the things you want to do in a zone, is to find the person isolated in the space and maybe try and throw it over the top, because there's very little wind right now. I say that, I can see the Eurodisc flags. There is a little bit, but it's not moving the trees as much as it was before. And there we see a little bit of movement through, but again, everyone quite short. Robin Fenig, oh, it nearly worked, you know?
She, I think, was just focusing on keeping her feet in, which she managed to do, but she could not manage to keep her hands on the disc.
Tell you what, though, highlight play for sure if that had come off.
I think that's still almost a highlight play. Oh, there we go.
Robin Vennick says, I'm sorry about that slightly high disc. Hold on, just let me go get it back for you.
She's considerate like that.
She's a nice gal, what can we say? The Dragon Thrust former mixed player, now coming to this European women's division. So nice to have her across. It was looking like it might not happen with the various quarantine and vaccine, well, fully vaxxed since February, she told me earlier this week. But nice to have her with us. But at the moment, there seem to be some Frisbee antibodies, although as we now go towards Chassigno, pops it back. That's Della Valle. Alexia Chassigno playing for the French national team many times. Well decorated individual. And of course, back in the last contingent of the French women's national team, they played the bracket, so they played the schedule very, very well in Cure.
I see.
They went pretty high up the rankings off of a, some called it controversial, I just call it smart. Win the games you need to win to know the schedule format, as we see the French throw it out of bounds. Katharina Meisel there. Oh wait, you know, the confusion earlier about Austrians. So Meisel is the Austrian on the team, coming from Vienna, currently living in Leuven, the PhD student in linguistics.
Oh, fun.
I think she once jumped in the booth with me, Ali.
How did that go?
Pretty well, she was very good.
I can imagine.
So Meisel, you know, maybe one day when you retire, you can come into our booth as we see Cheshki with the grab, sliding on her knees, just shy of the goal line. What a read from the Italian.
An excellent, excellent defense up until that point from YAKA, but just a millimeters pass so this will give CUSB another break and their first lead in this game.
Well, their second lead.
Sorry, yes.
They put themselves a nose in front. They came out of the blocks firing on all cylinders, caused the confusion, converted cleanly their defensive point. But that, well, in the stage of this game, those two breaks, Ali, were so hard fought. 3 turnovers for YAKA. So on the third try, CUSB finally managed to put it in for both of those. So we're really getting into a blow-for-blow situation. So YAKA now, can they hold their composure as we see another slow-mo of that beautiful grab for Chesky? You can see how bouncy this rubber crumb is. Be good to get an update at some point regards the status of Irene Scazzieri, who we saw leave the field early stages with that nasty knee bash.
She was on the sideline for a little bit. Someone had brought a blanket to cover her up. But yes, then I looked away and looked back and she has gone. So I assume she's being treated. Oh no, there she is. She was just moved slightly further back. So she looks like she's got her leg extended. You can see that Tokai boot peeking out of the blanket there, one of the sponsors of this tournament.
And indeed of our stream, the money behind our servers for our commentary source. So make sure we have the numbers and names of the players out in the field ripped out from Ultimate Central. So if your Ultimate Central profile does not have your current jersey number present and correct, and you're featuring on these streams, please do consider going into your profile. We know it's not always the easiest website to use, but please update your status with your correct jersey number. It makes our lives a lot easier. So Mondio making short work now of this group zone. They seem to have found some magique. As we see Bus faking around. Bringel coming through, nearly clattering the CUSB defender. There is separation. Oh, it is the Russian for the goal.
That is an absolutely delicious IO break from Mondio. And what allowed them, I think, to get such flow against the CUSB zone, I think, is partly a little bit of practice, them getting used to it. And also, it looked like they were bringing back sort of 3/4 handlers as opposed to just 3 strictly, which they had the last point. So there was that continuation from upfield to get the swing, and then that person would stay there and allow the disc to be swung a lot faster. And we'll see this big pivot, big IO break. What a throw.
So previously playing for the Wizards of Geneva, Olga Chinina. Now grabbing herself a score. So you can see the little celebration there. It's a jazzy leg-in look. Are you a fan of this? Because there's a certain player in the UK scene who goes by Hazard, who looks like a traffic hazard, frankly, with the amount of Under Armour he wears. But are you a fan of the jazzy jazzy compression look?
I think jazzy can encompass a lot of different looks.
Okay, one that doesn't match, isn't sort of, you know, coherent with the strip that they're wearing.
I think some people can carry it off, some people can't. I will not pass judgment on whether or not Hazard can. I will say, however, that Courier Island have new leggings, and they are gorgeous.
Oh. Well, you'll have to Google that one, I'm afraid, dear viewers, if you want to sign that one, because I feel like it's not worth our time to chat about the designs as we see the designs that YAKA have to try and prevent CUSB. Can they put their plan into action? Oh, yes, they cannot indeed. That is a beautiful sitter and hanger in stride. Keeps it well away from the trailing defender, and that is a goal for Italy. They are putting themselves in front and taking half.
That huge bid from Bass unfortunately meant there was no force on the throw, and able to just let rip all the time in the world and the space in the world to sitter out into space. So we are still within one. Half has just been taken by the Italian side. We can see the Italian sideline clapping and chanting on their women after suffering a bit of disappointment with Clapham dispatching CUSB in the men's final. But we're not here to talk about the men, we're here to talk about the women.
Indeed, but we are going to take a brief break, as the players do, for a half time. We'll be back with more action after this highlights.
We are a group of ultimate players, coaches and video enthusiasts. We've worked with the major federations and the greatest events.
We're on a mission to make Ultimate huge. We want our videos and live streams to be free to watch.
We want to make stories that not only reach you,
but also reach people outside the Ultimate community.
Like and subscribe, Ultimate TV, the best in the world.
Become a member
and fund our work to cover more events in the future and to bring more stories and live coverage to the eyes of the Ultimate world and beyond.
Welcome back here to the women's final, the xEUCF European Ultimate Championship Finals extended version. Here on the fields in Bruges, Belgium, the site of the famous Tom's tourney, which unfortunately was paused, obviously, due to the old COVID-19. But we're glad to be here. We drank the bar dry of Bruges yesterday evening, having had the weather turn into a bit of a maelstrom, and this women's division getting curiously cut after a scheduling nightmare, 17 team strong division. Yeah. How on earth do you prepare for that? Well, you do it by pools, power pools, and both these teams have rinsed their way through to the final, getting the detergent out of the cupboard, putting it in the machine, and having squeaky clean performances, almost perfect, going to the soft cap in all but one game. That tricky one here for the Italians versus Valkyria of Sweden. Hannah Penderbury here in the commentary tent. We've got our flaps open. I can't help it. They are indeed flaps, and they are indeed open, so we can keep this game in our view. And this is Callahan country. Meliga looking a little bit lost for options after a fantastic pull. Penetrate through to Seibert, who has 3 nationalities, none of them Austrian. But what are they? Can you guess in the comments? We'll find out. Fakes the backhand. But this is amazing smother cover defense from YAKA, and it just about gets in the head of Greta Meliga. We've seen her have so many drops on this field. It's so unusual, but when you put that much on one player's shoulders, having them as your isolated individual at the front of the zone, oh my goodness, a hammer over the top to Robin Fennick, and the dance celebration and kick and punch spike. Robin Fennick, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow, 2 spikes for the price of 1. And you could see Robin Fennick, as soon as that turn happened, gesturing to her team to just calm down, let's take it cool. And then receiving exactly the opposite of a cool play, a stall 1 hammer.
We love to see it. In the comments, it's been talking about how perhaps dull it was watching YAKA play against the CUSB zone. That just back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. The small ball, patient, ultimate. Nice to see a little bit of spice sprinkled on top as we're coming out in this second half.
Absolutely, and overheads are so much harder to defend against, potentially harder to execute as perfectly as your quote-unquote regular throws. I will say, YAKA reported to us that that zone they used for the first time on Friday. So they didn't use it at all on Thursday. They used it once or twice against Love, who made short work of it, so they stopped playing it. But it looks very good for something that they have not practiced much the rest of the tournament.
Well, this is a very drilled, very capable team. And they're pretty intelligent as well. They think a lot, certainly think a lot about gender equity type issues. These Italian ladies are such inspirational figures for female athletes around Europe in the way that they play, but also the way that they think and the way that they run. And we're going to run that one down. Nearly gets the trailing edge. Devastation, though, for the young Cecilia Scaririni.
Yeah, that looked like it was a couple of centimeters away from her fingers. An incredible tenacity and gumption to try and get that bid fully horizontal and off the floor. CUSB now setting up a zone of their own.
Indeed. Ines Bringel with the fiery fakes. Working it nicely, though. Are we going to see them get pinned? Some of the shots over the top haven't worked. The flat ones haven't. But are they going to bring out some maybe upside down all around? Bringel looking downfield. Oh, my goodness. Getting a lot of contact there. Calls the foul uncontested. Shame that Scaririni did have the separation for sure on that chance at offense. The way these two handlers are moving, it's a nice display of how to fake meaningfully. Fake with intention, not just because. But again, CUSB really managing to just contain. It's like they're in a glass case of emotion on the far side of the field. Gonna need to find some options. Spread. There's no one on the near sideline. They're all so far away, she says, as Matthias trots across just in front of us. I think she heard me, Ali.
You're cosmically linked.
Not a bad person to be cosmically linked to. Oh, and there goes Robin Fennick, finds Becquet on the far sideline, sneaking away like a little ninja. Bringel. Back to Fennick. She's going to choose a risky biscuit, but it's Fennick, so it works on the goal line, knocking on the doorstep, and there it is. Another goal for YAKA, and they're putting themselves in charge again.
This is so tense, Annie. I really don't know. I feel like there is absolutely no way of telling which team is going to come out on top. And I think a timeout is going to be called. I did not see which team called it. Comments in the chat if you have the eagle eyes and were able to spot those hand signals.
Oh, another look at that Scalarini bid. So sad. She was so close to it, but just not meant to be. We're getting a dance in front of us right now from a rather vivacious Clapham player who's looking very happy with himself, smug. Some might say smug. I would probably say smug. We're not even going to feature him. We're not even going to turn the camera around, although I'm not a big fan of being put on screen, Ali, but I did specifically wear, because we're doing women's finals today, I did specifically wear my Eurostar shirt, which says, inspire women and girls worldwide, which is the kind of the ethos of the Eurostars campaign. And I think this game is well set to inspire women and girls worldwide that Ultimate is an amazing sport to play. Because this is an amazing game.
This is an absolutely incredible game. And one thing that is such a facet of Ultimate that's so incredible as well as the spirit. And I will say the spirit so far in this game has been really, really good. Lots of respectful discussions and retracted calls. All of those, you know, good things we like to see.
And so, seeing what's in front of them on the field, I think that was a defensive miscommunication there as the mark comes in. But a slight sagging off the handler set, letting the resets go, pressuring the upfield, which is wise because the Italians have been doing a lot of isolation off the front of their vertical stack. A low one, but Pancotti brings it in, fakes the ripper, calls her teammates forward as she comes back for a little travel call there. But Gaia Pancotti with 4 goals on her stat sheet.
Oh my God.
That was such a snatch out of the air. Pancotti, oh my goodness, in this Brinchel with the block. What a play. Now that is going to fire this game up. Add a lock to the wood burner. The Portuguese is here.
And Mondial choosing to maybe just pour a little bit of water on that fire that's been ignited and put it in the freezer to keep this YAKA side very calm, because of course after an incredible play like that, that gets everyone's adrenaline boosting. Everyone, well, I mean, I say everyone, I mean the French, super excited, and playing when you're super excited can lead to, you know, maybe not the best kind of calm clinical offense. So gonna maybe start up a play here. This is an important point with an important break as we see.
Well, we just saw inspirational scenes. That's the other view of that. Oh my goodness, grab.
Out of nowhere. Just sensational.
So we see a little bit of colour there, some Salah spills with some silver round their neck. It does match the jerseys, it has to be said. Commiserations, well played in the final, but it was Hutz in the end. Although, of course, apologies if I've just spoiled the game if you're watching these back in order, because of course you're going to want to watch the women's final first, obviously. But if you are watching this game live, then please do let us know where you're tuning in from in the comments. And we are indeed laughing at some of the strange things that come into our brain. So apologies. We're laughing at ourselves, certainly not the players on the field.
Oh no. When you have to talk for 90 minutes straight over several days, your brain starts to do funny things. Looks like YAKA setting up in a fairly traditional horizontal look. CUSB trying to get a lot of poachers under and one deep.
So Mondio looking at her options, finds Becke with 0 pressure. Into Brinjel. who got the block, and she's going to get the assist potentially. Oh my goodness, flying through the air goes Paula Bass, but cannot come down with it.
So that defensive look from Shout, they had 1 deep and 3 under, despite the disc being on the middle. Normally you see a poach on if the disc is on the far side, because that opposite side cutter is quite hard to hit. So you were able to see Mondial just get off a floater to that poach player. But CUSB now on offense.
And it's going to be a high shot, but the players under it are the Italians.
Potentially a travel call. Disc will go back.
So off the arm of Frangipane. And shout out to some of our global friends, Ali.
Oh, excellent. We've got people tuning in from Malaysia, Hong Kong, Russia, Australia. And 1 AM in Sydney. Props to you from watching that.
Ultimate fans all around the world watching this free coverage brought to you as we see Anna Cheshki near sideline's going to fake the backhand. Pancotti to Frangipane. YAKA players letting them have the easy resets, but Paula Bass smacks it out of the ground, pops up off that stress-fractured foot.
She didn't go down gracefully. I was worried for her ankles for a second, but up she popped again.
And she goes immediately to the end zone, but that's a complete miscue there. That's a loss of balance from the CUSB defender. She pops up back out of the rubber crumb. Silvia Borghi getting in the way of Paula Bass and denying her a second bid.
So the turnover will stand despite a little bit of discussion there.
Well, both players fighting for the initial piece of it. Bass managing to stay on her feet, but not really much you can do if you're Borghi if you just fall over.
Very true.
So the Italians with another chance here. They need to put one in to stem the bleeding, as YAKA have gone 3 on the bounce, and it's just a miscommunication. 2 players coming together, bringing in Bringel, and just putting enough pressure on. Easy initial pass to get us going. Bertin. Oh, and she's going to find Becquet in the front corner, and that is another break for the French. Is it going to be their year? Are they finally going to grasp a gold medal? It's looking pretty good here, Ali.
It certainly is, and it seems like they are getting more and more comfortable, more and more proficient at breaking through the CUSB zone, the CUSB defense, and they are incredibly hyped up right now, clapping and singing. A little bit of jogging on the spot, and it looks like another timeout is going to be called.
Well, you've got to. If you're CUSB right now, you've got to find something. You've got to interrupt the rhythm of this YAKA side. It's not been clean. That break took 2 asks.
So I'm afraid I misspoke. It looked like they were going to call a timeout because they all gathered on the field, but then they just walked off again. So I wouldn't have hated a timeout call, you know, after going 2 breaks down.
They're just so big, and they're doing that thing that elite teams started doing maybe about 5 or 10 years ago, of crowding the field between every point, you know, that kind of like unified way, everyone hearing what the call is, what the plan is. So we see another look at that Becquet score.
It is, of course, very important that the whole team is on the same page with what the players on the field are doing. Can be so key, especially for the defense.
So the reigning champions currently on the field. Chesky going to the knees. Hops back to Frangipane. Big, deep cut available, but sinks it through, sneaking. Seibert, it's going to be a pick upfield.
Some very vocal French voices directing the defense.
This is nice movement now, just chipping away at the distance to the goal line. Seibert fakes off Lagala. Not available this time, Chesky, but coming through, it's Helle Rovang. The Danish player for this Italian side even, and that's going to come straight away, and coming through, Chesky throws herself at it, but to no avail. That's fenning for days. And the Italians a little bit on the back foot here, but Scazzieri coming in and applying the pressure eventually. Meisel, the Austrian. De Laval, Holstead on the far side, but there's a call on the field. She'll pause this for a moment.
I think a pick, although no more hand signals are forthcoming. So just a bit of discussion about what the stall should be coming in on.
It's a high one. It's going to sail over Meisel. Oh, nearly with the hero bid. Odd Richon not able to pick up the trash. The Italians have it back to try and get this hole, try and interrupt the flow of the YAKA machine. And Richon's going to have a little discussion with Francesco Sorrenti. As we get back underway. This is nice flow from the Italians. They do have options available largely on the break side, and there is just the fingertip, the touch from Clara Matias.
Just such a slight contact with it that she had, but enough to tip it out of the path, and that is going to be a timeout call by YAKA.
Yeah, this one for sure. Like you said before, you didn't know who'd called the timeout, but this one nice and clear.
And there's a lot of French going on in the chat. I think it's because I'm looking at the French YouTube stream, so that might explain that.
Indeed, multiple channels of commentary language available to you. You have some French, you have some German, and us here in English, with the Australians getting rowdy in the comments. Behave yourselves. But all good fun and games. No, we really are very glad to have you with us as we watch back some of the highlights of this marathon point. Currently at how many turnovers apiece? Our stats man Sean with the knowledge. 2-1. So break opportunity again for YAKA in this second half.
They have looked pretty good setting up from static and being able to get the disc moving. They are perfectly happy to grind it under and to throw deep shots as we get another look at that incredible D on the replay.
So we're getting some suggestions on our comments, Ali, that both teams are playing through quite short rosters, even though there's depth for days in the squads, as we certainly saw, as we said, against the matchups with Valkyria. 2 of those for CUSB Shout, the players in black. At points, Valkyria did have to resort to the Sarah Eklund show, which I'm always a fan of. Anyone not familiar with Sarah Eklund, where have you been for the past 10 years? But Richon looking a little bit lost for options, going to have to throw it and hope. Oh, you can see there Meisel wasn't able to make the full layout, but a bit of a winding there from the rubber crumb. That looks like it hurts.
And we can see both teams, the women on both these teams, giving absolutely everything that they have got to try and keep possession or snatch possession away from the opposition, as some of the YAKA players are going to jog over just to make sure that she's all right.
Well, another injury stoppage. The last one, thankfully, Ali, didn't seem to cause too many problems. This time, it's the French that are losing one of their key targets. So that's the number 29, De Laval, coming off the field. Jean?
Oh, yeah, it looks like she comes down quite heavily on that elbow, which looks like it's already in a sleeve, potentially with some taping underneath. That's pure conjecture, by the way. I have no idea if she has anything wrong with her elbow previously.
Well, it's the end of the season. It's October, it's autumn, hence the weather that's been howling a ghoulie. And Frangipane, as the sun just saunters over the fields. It's nice to see a little bit of a break from the cloudy, overcast conditions here, allowing these athletes to show us just how excellent they are. Frangipane tossing it up to Legala. Very physical player, Legala. Carmen Legala, very useful in their semi-final. Haven't had much duty on the field here, but that is a block for Alexia Chassignot. She says Chassignot.
Oh, very nice, very nice.
We love a pun. We love a pun on this commentary stream.
Question from the chat. There is, I would say, next to no wind currently. Some of these Eurodisc flags are barely moving at all.
They're being but caressed. The wind has completely dropped in the second half. And you know what's really interesting? It's dropped and YAKA have woken up. They are firing, and that is a heck of a read under pressure. Can it be another one on the board for the French? It pops in, and Fenig makes just enough distance. Little head spike there from the American.
And what a connection to have on the field. Mondio, absolute incredible handler, and Fenig, not a bad handler herself, but also such a credible and just a receiver to die for to have on your team. I'm speaking from you know, playing relatively low-level mixed in London. Having a Robin Fenig-esque player, it just would seem like a pipe dream.
Well, I don't know, you know, maybe if you invite her over, build it and she will come, or they will come. There are obviously lots of players out here on the fields that are as talented as Fenig, and in different ways as well. That I think we've really got such a well-rounded set of players in front of us to enjoy. Some big throwers, some big receivers. Although at the moment it seems to be the creativity, I think, that has an edge here.
I think so too. We haven't seen too much spice from Shout. They are certainly capable of it, but I'm wondering if there's maybe a bit of an element of this is the final and we are taking this seriously, which is not necessarily, you know, those more unconventional throws. They do have a place, especially when the conditions are still.
So 4 breaks straight out into this second half for the YAKA players. CUSB needs to find some magic now. Oh, and it's not. It's Nanu with the block, and Le Bon coming in and putting themselves. They're so dominant right now.
Le Bon looked so casual getting that run through D. She just carried on jogging as if she'd just swiped her card on a bus and was just, yep, that's where I'm going.
To be fair, I know for a fact that she is an uber athlete. Most of the players out here on the fields are, you know, in great shape, but Nanu just does so much. I think she can do like handstand push-ups.
Oh, crumbs.
Yeah, one of those under lockdown doing the challenges of taking all of your clothes off whilst, putting clothes on, sorry, whilst in a handstand. And that is the goal for Paula Bus, but possibly a call, signals of score, but big bid from Scazzieri, the elder.
She signals the score. And YAKA are over the moon.
Well, is it any wonder, Ali? That was just something else. Block from Le Bon, and then the layout score from Bus. And after a very lengthy defensive conversion, we see a much more rapid one.
And CUSB have not scored since taking half. So since we have had half, YAKA have been bageling Shout and show no signs of letting up.
So, we saw YAKA do this in their game against Love.
They
the
did.
Belgians.
They absolutely did.
On this field yesterday. Love were able to hang tough, really fight in it, give YAKA a good game. 3SB in the quarterfinal after the weather changed them and made the power pool format go straight to quarterfinals. They did feel a wee bit robbed of having their quarter against YAKA. Such a strong team, they had a scoreline of 15-11, but with the Love game, they came out in the second half and just silenced them. And that is what YAKA are doing now. They've got a big, old, fluffy cushion, and they've just popped it on top of the Italians' offense and just sat pretty on top of it. And that's why they have the buffer of 4 points in this women's final. Cheshki, though, is going to have something to say about that. And it is a lasery flick, but that is sitting and hanging underneath it, though, with the read. The travel's going to bring it back, but that was a lovely piece of offense from Cecilia Scagliarini.
Yeah, Cheshki doesn't necessarily look, I mean, as well, she might not look very happy about it. I think just a potential change of direction as she caught the disc is going to bring it back. So we'll see it here. Yeah, she does. I mean, I'm not a fan of travel calls in general, but she did take quite a few steps to slow down.
Seibert not finding much in the way of options upfield, but in comes Pancotti from the deep space. She's going to laser a flat one. Oh, and the layout is great to look at, but doesn't manage to get a score.
Helpful person on the sideline putting the cone back for us. Very important to have cones on all sides of the field.
Kicking cones out of the way when establishing a pivot at the front corner of the end zone. Fan or no fan, Ali?
Absolutely my least favourite thing. Need to establish your pivot on the field, and the line is not a part of the field.
On the line is out. But that is going to be taken out of the sky. Anna Cheshki, you thief!
Oh no!
But back to Gaia Pancotti, what a hero! Oh, my feelings! Oh, my feelings! And Anna Cheshki goes down against Robin Fennig. Oh, Anna Cheshki, hopefully she is okay.
That would be a huge loss. I mean,
we saw the Italian women's national team, who had so many of these CUSB players, struggle to come back into it after an incredible quarterfinal against the German women's team. Struggled after losing some players to injury. We do see Cheshki there up, off of the field. Very good to see. So glad. I think she's just winded herself. Woof.
She certainly did hit the floor with a bit of a thump.
But the Italians have had so many injuries. Farolfi out with a broken foot a couple of days ago, no, weeks ago. She's on the sideline with her
crutches.
Her crutches that she's using as an instrument. Oh my goodness. Robin Fennig inches away. How did Cheshki manage to hold on to that?
Or potentially a foul call, maybe, is giving her the possession.
Oh no, she came down with it. She had it in her clutches when she hit the floor hard. But oh my goodness, she's staying out there, Ali. Takes a little injury stoppage and remains on the field. But of course she needs to. 8-12. Deficit of 4 points. It's a mountain staring up at it. Oh, squeezing it far side. Marcazzini, having had some time off, makes a miscue. This is the thing. We're seeing players coming in that have been sat on the sidelines for a while. Maybe closing down those lines so early wasn't such a good idea. But it's going to be Chassigno. Has Mondiaux on the around. Going to have to work hard, though, to try and get away from her defender. Foul call. Perhaps a bit of a fortunate one there.
So I'll just see the replay here. That's yeah, that's a little bit of a bump from Frangipane.
Coming in for a little kiss.
Yeah.
Little kiss?
Hello, honey.
Little kiss?
Afterwards.
Oh, I'm having a great time watching this game. We hope you are too. And oh, my word. Meisel trying to get the bid over the pack. But there is going to be a call, so we'll see what the discussion is.
This is a slightly exasperated reaction from that number 7 shirt, Marchesini. And we've got a couple of people on the sideline coming over, potentially to translate or to offer their perspective.
I do like the position of the Spirit Captain, having someone who's in charge of being that one voice, a bit of objectivity. As you say, translations can be useful.
So just not able to see it on that angle. That's a fantastic bid to try and save it too.
Yeah, Katarina Meisel there with the attempt, but it's coming back off the foul call. Fenig now looking at her options, doesn't really like the look of any of them. It's going to be a high whisk. Oh, over the top. What a golden throw that was to open up the space, but a pick going to bring the score back.
That break, I mean, there is a height difference between Chesky and Mondio, and she just managed to pop the disc straight up and over and then back down. It's a really perfect throw.
We do love some outdoorsy, indoorsy type play on the field here. And I have to say, it's been really nice to see the overheads more used, as we see one going up for Robin Fenig, who snaffles the biscuit and puts another one in the jar for her team. There's a lot of cookies in that stack. Now 5 points clear. It is wide open for YAKA. They can see that medal dangling, dangling away. That's 6 points on the trot, and that one only took 2 times to do it.
So another pseudo timeout from Shout.
Oh, this is a timeout.
It's a real timeout. There we go. They just didn't quite communicate that to YAKA before settling up. So YAKA with only 2 points, and we can see Davide Marie there in the stack, gesticulating, exhorting his players, and getting a round of applause for his advice.
Well, and we're also getting lots of support on the chat in the live stream for the CUSB side. They are so quality at the moment. It looks like it may be out of reach. It may be all over, but do not put anything past these feisty Italian athletes. As I said, so many of them appear on the national side in the women's division. Did you manage to see their game against the Germans back in 2019 in Gjød, Ali?
That was my year off Frisbee. I did not consume much Frisbee media, I must say.
It's good to take breaks. It is unfortunately behind a paywall, but it's worth every penny for 1 month's worth of fantasy subscription just to see that game. I had to lie down in the stands for about 15 minutes afterwards because the Italians staged a comeback led, to be fair, by Laura Farolfi, the talismanic player for the CUSB side. But they have some big household names still on their roster. They are very, very capable, and they are looking good. It's just YAKA looking that little bit better. But have they got their tickets to the comeback train? Chat thinks they do. But do they believe it themselves?
Also, just a shout out to the chat. Thank you very much for holding each other accountable and keeping it respectful. We really, really appreciate seeing that. Thank you very much.
Frangipane there, the key handler for this CUSB offense.
Just putting her foot on the path that leads up this big mountain they will have to climb.
Well, there's some pretty good mountains in Italy, so I'm sure they're good at doing that. Lagala, oh, she hesitates far too long. And Janina closes the door, slams it in her face.
They can do quick turns, YAKA, but it seems like they do prefer to take their time and set up as a huge one goes deep.
Becky has it in her grasp and it's a goal! My goodness, Elise Becky, you legend!
Insane, unbelievable, incredible. There are not enough adjectives to describe that layout. Oh my word, Annie.
So, look at that body language. The YAKA side, the shirts of red, le rouge. We're not allez le bleu today, we're allez le rouge. And that is going to be game 2:15. We're gonna hit the soft cap as the time cap. But as much as YAKA have shown their class in this second half, they are completely unanswered.
So this would be an almost exact mirror of their game against Love, bageling the second half. And they just look so dominant, and CUSB do not seem to have any answers.
They really don't. It's just pure fire all over the field. Lagala had that hesitation. You know, she looked at the disc too long. She needed to go up early and aggressive. But we know that the Italians can play some absolutely fantastic defense. So, the gauntlet has been thrown. This is YAKA's to lose at this point. They only need one more. Can it be from the D-line, or are they going to have the O?
It is also worth mentioning at this point that in their game against Cosmic, they were down 11-10, scored a hold, and then 4 breaks.
But there is the turnover. Cecilia Scaglierini cannot do anything but watch the disc bounce around in the rubber crumb in front of her, and it's going to be Alexia Chassignot getting us underway. Nice little view there of our camera person, Chips, doing it for a bit of visibility. Love to see it. Chassignot looks around, has Bass in the center, trying to get free but failing. Sorrenti putting on the massive pressure. Robin Fenning now coming in, popping in front. Hovang, sorry, Knudsen even, the other Dane. Hovang, of course, playing for the CUSB side. Hovang actually having dislocated her shoulder early in the tournament, but she has been playing in this game. Nice to see her out there. Pick call upfield as both sides need to use every bit of energy they have to claw at each other.
This shout defense is so fiery. You can really feel their determination to not have this be the last point. Will it be enough?
Oh, I'd be more than happy to get a few more of this beautiful women's final. Knudsen pops it up. Dabin, not seeing her so much on the field for YAKA, but into Fennig it goes. It's so close. Paola Bass puts it up, and that's going to be Meisel underneath it. Can they do it? Is it going to be this moment that they finally get the gold medal? Paola Bass, the player from the Netherlands, pops to Meisel. She's going to go for it. It's going to sail over the top. It's not then. But that looked great until it just sailed over the fingertips of Matthias, and CUSB managed to hold on. They put pressure on. They made YAKA work for it, but let's see. YAKA are going to try everything they can. Knudsen on the mark. Seibert rips open the field with a huge sinking backhand. Meisel, though, underneath it with the grab. Oh, but immediate miscommunications. Oh, my Lord. Okay, the pressure is getting to everybody as we see Helle Hovang there, the number 15 that I spoke about, the other Dane. 2 Danes on the field. You love to see it for a French and Italian club side, but that's again miscommunication, huge bid. And great work actually from Marcassini, staying out of the way. Not coming in too hard, just allowing the turnover to happen. Sorrenti into Ceschi. This CUSB line needs to make it happen here. Scazzieri. Nice switching there, nearly coming in for the tip-off. Chassigno, but that is a goal, Lianesi, but finally the CUSB players respond and put their first point on the board since we started this second half. Ali, now we have potentially the start of a spicy, spicy comeback. At the moment, YAKA have put 6 padlocks on the cupboard. And each one of them, to unlock that medal, they're going to have to pull out a safety pin or some kind of metal implement and try and pick the lock. It's a puzzle. Their D-line's going to have to come out with fieriness and intensity. But it's, as Davide Mori says, the wind is an equation, you just have to solve it. But this is a puzzle for this Italian. How much can they bring to the table right now?
I would argue it's not necessarily as calm and rational as a puzzle. I think there's a giant which has a key for each of those padlocks. And to get the key, they need to take down a giant and unlock the cupboard which contains that medal. So just to impinge on your metaphor there.
Is it maybe it's a puzzle box, but what they're going to do is they're going to take the puzzle box, they're going to take it above their heads, and they're just going to find a giant rock and smash it onto the rock. I don't know what metaphor we're using anymore. All I know is that I am excited to see what happens. Can the CUSB D-line snag another one off of the French? Or are they going to stumble here and allow this slick YAKA offense to work? It's been the D-line doing the duty, and it's a hand block. No call from Ines Bringel. What amazing spirit. Oh, this is exciting.
An incredible bid from Pancotti, who is now walking over to the disc.
Gaia Pancotti, so good all game long. Ceschi there, I'm available. You can reset the stall with me. Scazzieri finds her. Oh, but an overshot from Ceschi. Cannot connect with Pancotti.
She has been playing, I think, a majority of the points in this game. Obviously an incredibly well-conditioned athlete, but this game has now been going for over 100 minutes, and everybody must be a little bit tired by now.
Mondio getting a little bit lost for options. This is top defense. Hovang there coming in and taking a lot of lag from Paula Bus. Lovely around Mondio, nice and easy. Finds Bringel. The two having played so well together in the Eurostar side in 2019. Bringel has a little look at it. Paula Bas working hard. Now it's Becker at the front, isolated in the space. Mondio, the creative thrower, sneaks one in, and it's Nanu for the goal! YAKA take home their first ever women's gold medal, and it is in delightful style. Le Bon puts the flag on the map for the French, and you can see that was so delightful. What a second half!
Absolutely incredible scenes here in Bruges. What an understated way to take the win. You would not have known that that was a championship point for them. They just looked calm, cool, collected, the same way they have throughout this entire game, and just freezing through shouts, fiery passion to take their first gold at Euros.
Congratulations to YAKA, commiserations to CUSB. They fought admirably in the early stages of the game. They came out with the first break. They looked so strong, but they just couldn't find an answer to the questions that YAKA were posing in the second half. And it was just too much to be handled. The fire, the intensity, inspirational scenes. As we wrap up the extended European Ultimate Championship finals, Ali, what would be your closing thought on this entire tournament experience?
I think it's so amazing to see all of these incredibly elite, high-level teams come back and play this tournament after all of the, you know, the stuff that happened over the last 3 years. I heard, you know, some things happened internationally that, you know, weren't great.
Understatement of the century.
So to see these incredible teams come out and fight in a tournament they've not been able to play, and to demonstrate that athletes of this caliber can have an extended time off and still come out having maybe only had a few months together due to restrictions and look this good. We've seen some incredible Ultimate here, and I think Ultimate in Europe it has been on the up for ages, and it's still getting even better.
Oh, it certainly is, Ali. Ici, c'est Noisy. This year, it is indeed the athletes from Noisy-le-Sec who are going to take home not a dirty gold, so many bronzes, and finally, 2021, the post-pandemic era. It is finally a gold. Thank you so much for joining us on this live stream. ulti.TV coverage, bringing you free streams on YouTube as much as we can, whenever we can, as many fields as we can. If you want to support us, please do consider becoming a patron of Ultimate Coverage. We really need your support to keep these games free so we can increase visibility and grow the sport. But it has been an absolute pleasure to chaperone you through this women's final match here in Bruges, closing the tournament. Thank you so much to all of the staff, keeping us dry, feeding us, bringing us coffee, to everybody working the freebies, the tournament organisers. But most of all, thank you so much to every single person who has gotten themselves through all of the restrictions to be here on the fields. We'd be nothing without you. It's our pleasure, myself, Hannah Pendlebury.
And also me, Ali Thomas.
It's been real, and we'll see you again at the next one.
ulti.TV.